To this January 27th, 2025 meeting of the Great Falls Public Schools Board of Trustees. As per Montana law, this meeting will be recorded and posted on our website at some point in the future. Mr. Patrick, would you please administer the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Gordon Johnson.
Here.
Kim Skornagowski.
Here.
Bill Bronson.
Here.
Mark Finicum.
Excused.
Marley Sunchild.
Here.
Amy Thompson. Paige Tarosky.
Here.
We have a quorum present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Trustee Sunchild, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Skornagowski.
I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. Any questions or commentary from our Board of Trustees? Any questions or comments from our gallery here with us this afternoon? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We've adopted our agenda and ready to move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Tarosky.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any questions or commentary from our Board of Trustees? Any questions, comments from our gallery? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the questions. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It passes unanimously. We're moving on to Section 6, Communication. A Character Strong Valley View Elementary School, Mrs. Mainwaring. Welcome.
Good evening, Chairman Johnson. That's on. Members of the board, Superintendent Hoyer, members of the community. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce Valley View. They're going to be doing a Character Strong presentation. I'm going to invite Mrs. Dyke to come on up and get us started. She's principal at Valley View.
Welcome. Nice to have you here.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I have quite a crew along with me tonight.
We're happy
So
to see you.
just like to take a minute to introduce them. And so King, come on up, and Prince, come on up. Emma and Daisy, come on up. Emma's like, oh my goodness. Daisy's actually a second grader. Daisy is in the video that we're going to show you. So these are 4 of our fantastic Valley View Bobcats, and we're very excited that they could join us tonight. And something you might not know about them is they have taken their show on the road a couple of times. They sang Christmas carols at Grandview, and at our assemblies, they do a lot of our singing presentations to bring the group all together. So thank you for always being willing to do that and sharing your voices. That is one of my most favorite things of the many things that I love about our school. Also, I have our parents along with us. We have Laura Hayjack. We have second grade teacher Cindy Clark, second grade teacher Angie Henneberg. We have King and Prince's mom, Deanna Nichols. And then we have our 6th grade teacher, Miss Julian. So thank you for joining and bringing the kids along as well. So this month, we have been learning about perseverance. Last month, we learned about empathy, which is learning about other people's feelings and connecting to understand their feelings, right? So we have a special song to share with the board. Are you ready? We're going to play your video. We did collaborate with CMR's video productions class to record tonight's video.
Oh, my. Well, we appreciate you. That was wonderful.
So nice job, students, for putting that together and sharing your message with the community. And second and third grade would like to invite you any Friday morning to come and do the cha-cha slide with them. So, thank you. Have a good.
Thank you. Well, we're inspired to live with empathy and perseverance. Thank you so much for that lesson, sharing that lesson with us. It's so important, and it's always good to be reminded how important those things are in our lives. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. That brings us up to Communication B, Superintendent Report. Mrs. Hoyer.
Well, good evening, Chairman Johnson, trustees, members of our community. This is a very, very busy week for Great Falls Public Schools. And if you see anybody, be they students, parents, or staff members, kind of be glazed over, it is Crosstown Week. You haven't had our high schoolers talk to you this month, so don't forget, tomorrow is Crosstown Wrestling, Thursday is Crosstown Girls Basketball, Friday is Crosstown Boys Basketball. There's a lot going on in all of our schools, elementaries and high schools combined. Before I begin, a huge congratulations to CMR's Leslie Evans. Today, she was named the Montana Theater Teacher of the Year. She will be joining us in February for the recognition, but congratulations to Leslie. If you know her, give her a shout out. That is really, really cool. What a wonderful honor. Speaking of honors, it is my honor to have Miss Olivia Cordero with us tonight. She is a senior at CMR, and Olivia is the fantastic graphic designer and artist who helped us with our profile of a learner. This was a process that we started a little bit over a year ago. We had a community and teacher committee who worked to determine what is learning, what does the future hold for our students of today, and how do we prepare them for that future. We then conducted a community-wide survey to determine the 5 most important skills, traits, and characteristics of a learner. And then faculty advisory, which is combined of principals and of teachers, worked extensively to develop a rubric for the 5 identified skills, traits, and characteristics. We were very, very lucky to find Olivia. I'm going to have her come on up to the lectern and talk a little bit about her vision for what our graphic design of our profile of a learner looks like. You have one in front of you. On the back side of it, I'll talk you through the rubric when we're done. But Olivia, come on up.
Alrighty. Thank you for having me tonight, and I'm really glad that I got to be a part of this because it means a lot to me to be like selected out of all the students to get to do something like that. Because last year I got to do the Morningside logo, so that was really, really great. And then this year, she came to me and asked if I would do this. So I wanted to create something that was pretty simple, so that it could be like easily understood and like understood what was going on. But I still wanted to have everybody represented from graduation level to elementary level. So we have a graduate in her cap and gown. We have a elementary school age little girl and a middle school aged boy, all holding hands, kind of like looking in different directions, just addressing different audiences. I wanted to make sure that all of the colors were legible and easily readable. I wanted to try to incorporate as many different colors, but not keep them too obnoxiously bright because then they become a little bit harder to read. I still wanted things to be fun and stylish, but still pretty easy to read. That's kind of all I've got.
So Olivia has worked with us every time she sends us a draft, asks what we think, cabinet looks at it, we get her feedback. She's been incredibly responsive, but I just want to thank her in a very special way and have the board recognize her because this will be what is published and it becomes part of our strategic plan, part of our accreditation process moving forward. So a very special thank you to Miss Olivia and the class of 2025. If we started with elementary, we're going to be ending with our seniors. And her work will take us into the future as she moves into her own future. So thank you, Miss Olivia. If I could have you take a moment and shake the board members' hands, I would appreciate it. So on the back side of the profile page that you see is the work that our committee and our faculty advisory have done, where they took those 5 skills that Olivia described on the front, and they broke them down into grades. Because while many school districts around the state have called this the profile of a graduate, we realized that learning takes place pre-K through 12 and beyond, and so we wanted it to be a profile of a learner. That was one of the findings of what learning is when our committee dug into it. Those of you who have been in curriculum design probably recognize this a little bit. It's very similar to our know, understand, and do's. So learners will be able to ends all of our skill statements, and then it's broken down at each of the grade levels. This document then will be taken to our curriculum committee, where our curriculum committee will begin to weave these soft skills through the curriculum that all of our students have as they progress towards graduation. And so this brings a really nice, beautiful close to this year-long process of determining what a profile of a learner is for Great Falls Public Schools. And now we have another thank you. I swiped a picture off your website, Mr. Blewett. We have a very, very special thank you to Mr. Anders Blewett for his continued advocacy and belief in public education. He is a pioneer. I think I read somewhere the term driving force, and that kind of underestimates him, I think, in using his skills to network and motivate people to help us use the Innovative Tax Credit Legislative Initiative to really do some unique things for Great Falls Public Schools, and many of which have been cut from our budgets. On his own time, he attended public meetings to speak in support. He leveraged social media to educate, and he held personal conversations with members of the community. I gave some data up there. $66,000 in 2023. The state allotted, I think it was $68,000. He's very competitive, by the way, former high school athlete, former college athlete, trial lawyer. So I think that competitive streak bodes well for us at Great Falls Public Schools. So in 2023, Great Falls Public Schools received 96% of the total amount available in the state. Then they opened it back up in January 2024, and 35 members of our community gave $1 million. It's the maximum, so we maxed out. The Blewett family alone gave over $250,000 to Great Falls Public Schools. In January of 2025, 46 members of our community, so we're growing in our numbers, gave $916,188. We were the first in the double A's. I believe we might have been first in the state once again. So there we go. We're keeping that first place trophy. But the quote I took off of his website is that he believes in the value and the simplicity of restoring field trips and doing things for kids. So I wanted to take a moment, have him come on up and recognize him for his ongoing support. We do some amazing things, and we could not do it without him. So Mr. Blewett, thank you.
The kind words. I appreciate it. There was far more than just me in action on this. Brian Patrick was also a partner in crime on this and put in a lot of extra work, going above and beyond. I know his usual duties. It's not necessarily part of his job description, but he's made it a part of it, and he has been there coordinating with me and many others who care about education in this community. And I think this program, and I don't know that I necessarily believe this is the best way to fund school, public school in America or in Montana for that matter, but it is what it with the chips that are on the board, and the board says this money's up for grabs. We have an educational Hunger Games, and we beat the bag out of the state of Montana. We've done it 2 years in a row, and we've done it because people in this community care about education. And certainly my family has a strong relationship to this community. I feel very privileged to have grown up here and gone to the schools here. We're fourth generation now. Blewett's going to public schools in Great Falls, and it's been good to us. And so you look back at like my childhood, I've had a lot of opportunities, and you see kids not getting to go on field trips, and that hurts to see that, and it's hard not to get emotional thinking about it, but we got to do better. We got to make sure that educational opportunities are expanding, not contracting. And the fact that those programs went away, in my view, is shameful. And we brought them back, and they're going to come back, and we're going to try to make it permanent and raise enough money to make sure they never go away. And hopefully the legislature steps up and does what it needs to do and gives our future generations more opportunities, not less, than what I got, what my dad got, what my grandmother got. They all went through Great Falls High, Great Falls Public Schools, and it's just very good that we've got the community we've got. Starts with our school board, extends to our teachers and administrators and the parents and the community members who understand that's the bedrock of our community, and it's the foundation for a vibrant and economically productive society. So thank you for everything that the district has done to make this happen, and let's win it again next year.
So I couldn't have said it any better. Born, raised, educated in Great Falls. They've given scholarships. They've helped with facilities upgrades. They continue to support all students, not just their students. So a huge thank you to Anders and to the Blewett family. Thank you very much. So we have a surprise this evening. We were contacted by Morningside Core students who wanted to do something special for our school board. They're taking time out of their busy day because they're also working with the city of Great Falls to do the city's growth policy. They are the student elementary voice for the policy committee. I believe they work with Mr. Brock Cherry and his crew today. So they have something for you that is a lot of fun. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Gordon Johnson, members of our board, Superintendent Heather Hoyer, Great Falls staff, and community, thank you for having us this evening. I am Jennifer Martin, proud principal of the core school at Morningside, and our student leadership, made with our sixth graders here, have worked on a special message for you. And our faculty advisor back there hiding, Lainey Warnicki, if you could just wave. Thank you for your support in leading them. So I'd like to introduce Tuff.
Hello, we're from Morningside Core School, and we are the leadership. And we have made a slideshow. Simon, who will be clicking through the slideshow, Micah, who found a lot of the research and pretty much made the slideshow, and I, Tuff O'Brien, just kind of be in support. So, yeah, I hope you like our presentation we made for you guys.
Right in there.
Yeah. There's more.
The school the school board superheroes include of Gordon Johnson, who is just like Captain America because his superpowers are strength, agility, stamina, healing ability, expert technician, martial artist, and he has an indestructible shield. He is the board chairperson and his profession is music director of the Great Falls Symphony.
Wow. Getting a big,
Oh, it didn't load?
big head.
It also has Kim Skonorski, who is the board vice chairperson, and she is like Mantis because her superpowers are superhuman strength, agility, ability to sense and manipulate others' emotions, induce sleep, and erase memories. Her profession is the United Way marketing director. Lowell Bronson is just like Wolverine because his superpowers are reflexes, agility, senses, retractable adamantium plated bone claws, regeneration, and indestructible skeleton. His profession is an attorney.
All right.
Mark Finicum is like Iron Man because his superpowers are a genius level intellect, multiple powered armor suits, and the ability to fly. His profession is financial advisor. Paige Turonsky is just like Supergirl because she possesses the ability for flight, super strength, energy absorption, invulnerability, superhuman stamina, super breath, high durability, super speed, super hearing, heat vision, and x-ray vision. She's willing to and has sacrificed herself for the greater good. Her profession is aware.
Need all that to be a mom.
Amy Thompson is just like Storm because her ability to remain calm under pressure and her deep sense of justice have made her a respected and beloved figure among her peers. She is the executive director of 10,000 Small Businesses program at Great Falls College. Marley Sunchild is just like Wonder Woman because she is virtually unbeatable in most of her fights. Not only does she possess superhuman strength and mobility, but she is also proficient in the usage of her weapons like her sword and lasso. Her profession is a retired teacher. And a special thanks for Marley Sunchild for serving on our core school Morningside advisory. This is her 4th year on the school board. She chooses to serve on the school board so that she can continue to be a part of our school district after she retired from from teaching. Her favorite thing about being a school board member is working with all the people who make our district run. Other than serving on the school board, she also serves on the Great Falls Public School Foundation. One of her favorite things about volunteering for the board is the wonderful people she gets to work with and the chance to make a difference in our community. Thank you.
We're speechless. That was so much fun. Thanks for your research because every word of what you said in our profiles was entirely true. Mostly. Thank you so much. We appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for being here and sharing that with us. That's fantastic.
So an incredibly fun project. It came unsolicited when they called and said, "Can we squeeze into the superintendent's report?" I said, "Absolutely." And then I didn't get a chance to see it until today. So it was well done and just a lot of fun. So thank you very much, you guys, for all you did to recognize our board. So as you recognize the board, I want to talk a little bit about the individuals who continue to represent our district. In one of our last board meetings, Mike Henneberg came forward, and Mike shared that he was heading to the winter MHSA meetings. Now, Mike knew, and I knew, and a couple of other people knew, but we couldn't make it public at that time, that we had some very special people who are going to be recognized at the winter meeting for MHSA. So Mr. Nate Achenbach of CMR, he is one of the associate principals over there. He is also the athletic liaison. He received his MHSA MIAAA, we needed more alphabet soup, in Montana. That's the Montana Interscholastic Activity Administrators Association. He received his gold pass, and that pass will entitle him to attend any MHSA event, any meaning everything, including postseason, for the remainder of his life. So congratulations to Mr. Achenbach. Scott Smart of Great Falls High, he received the Mildred Adams Award, and the Adams Award recognizes school support staff personnel who have given of themselves to student activities. Scott has served as the GFH event coordinator for the last 20 years. So congratulations to Mr. Smart. Jim Grant, who was unable to attend, but he was inducted into the inaugural Athletic Director Hall of Fame. He served as our athletic director here from 1969 to 1997. And at some point, we'll get together with him to give him his award. And then Mr. DeGoyer made it all the way from South Dakota. He was also inducted into the inaugural MHSA Athletic Director Hall of Fame. He was our athletic director from 1997 to 2018. So Great Falls Public Schools was very well represented in the award ceremony at MHSA winter meeting. So congratulations to all of those individuals. I needed to make you aware, and I'm going to see if Mr. Boyd, if I have anything that I miss, Mr. Boyd, you hop on up and fill it in. But Great Falls Public Schools is going to be applying for the newest iteration of the Striving Readers Grant. It's called Montana Reads. And for Montana Reads, Mr. Boyd provided me this slide, but the purpose of it is really to focus on advancing those literacy skills for our disadvantaged students. We'll be focusing on evidence-based practices. We'll be doing some professional development for our school leaders and strengthening systems to increase collaboration. This one is a little bit different because we cannot have any staff hiring positions incorporated into this portion of the grant. Correct, Mr. Boyd? So this is different from any of the other ones, and we have been part of Striving Readers or the Montana Literacy Project since its inception many, many, many years ago. I was in his first year in my associate principal position, so that says how long ago it was. We do have 11 schools in Great Falls Public Schools who are eligible, both from the pre-K to the 12th grade level. Estimated funding to the state of Montana is $50 million, where large districts will average, if they qualify, over $600,000 a year for 4 years. And we just needed to give you notice that we will be applying for this, fingers crossed to the crew that is going to be doing the work to get the application ready. And we look forward to hearing some good news from that in the future, but it will provide us some resources that we have relied on to help improve literacy over the last 15 years. Our generous community continues. So by the way, any of you skiers? Anybody skiers? So in the last 7 days, they've had 30 inches of snow up at Showdown. The base is at 36 inches. The summit's at 52. Heard this on the radio, by the way. Year to date, 222 inches of snow. That's a lot of snow. And our ski and board club in Great Falls came forward with 25 passes for students to allow them to enjoy those 222 inches of snow. So thank you again. This is they do this every year, and we can't thank them enough. We have students who can't always afford or have the opportunity to go up and ski, and this gives them an opportunity to enjoy Montana's great outdoors and really to check out the snow sports that are associated with Central Montana. So thank you to the Ski and Board Club. And this was a cool event. Christina Keggy from Central Plumbing said it was pure magic, and she is absolutely right. The National Association of Women in Construction, their education foundation, did what they call the Block Kids activity, and where they got together with students. So it was women in construction coming together to work with students to apply problem solving and pre-construction skills to build objects, and then the students had to orally walk through and kind of defend their thought process. So it involved a lot of spatial thinking, verbal communication, a lot of confidence building. We did this at Longfellow Elementary, and it was amazing. I was not able to attend, had another issue that I was dealing with, but from everyone that I heard, this was one of the most amazing things they've seen happen from our community in our schools. It was just pure magic. And so congratulations to, by the way, you might recognize the young lady on the top. That is an alumni. That's Macy Veneris, and she now works for RDO. She's actually looking to get a promotion and maybe head out of state a little bit south where it's a little warmer. But she was right there with the kids learning the skills that she has used day in and day out as she moves through the ranks at RDO. So very, very cool opportunity. And I'm going to end with our data for the day. We did this with my superintendent's advisory panel, but thank you to Mr. Jeff Williams for providing the website matrix. This is the part of the communication plan as I spoke about last time we looked at social media. This is what we're seeing for our website. So on the upper left, just shows you essentially what a month would look like. As you see, we peak as we head into the school week. We maintain pretty steady, and then we'll drop down, of course, on the weekends and then peak again as we head into the school week. We have a lot of users on the lower left-hand side who are 30-day plus accessors to our website. So while we know many of these are staff, not all of them are staff. And so most of the people who are accessing our website do it often. When we're looking at our searches, direct search, one where they have it bookmarked, they can go right to it, is actually our most common way to access our website. Organic searches, where people are just Googling Great Falls Public Schools, comes in second place. And in the middle, it was really interesting to us when we were looking at it that the United States, of course, is the highest number of people accessing, trying to get information from Great Falls Public Schools or about Great Falls Public Schools, which makes sense. Germany also makes a lot of sense because of our affiliation with the Air Force. But then we have India, Canada, the Philippines, and China as well, just doing some, I would assume, survey work on what does Great Falls Public Schools have to offer. When we looked at what do people really look at, what are they clicking on? When they get to our website, the homepage, of course, is the first one. I'd like to think it's because of the fantastic picture of cabinet on the homepage, but I'm thinking it's probably because that's where you find what's for lunch for the week and what is the calendar telling us for activities are for the week, all sorts of amazing things like that. We also go on to online resources that are available for students and staff. Staff bookmarks with 14,000 hits is our next highest, so our staff is using our website. Our website did undergo some changes, so we were really excited to see what is the data telling us about not only how often do people use it, what is the duration of time that they use it, do they use it every day, and when they go there, what are they looking for? And that'll help us begin to revise some of our work on the website. I believe the superintendent's advisory panel gave some really good feedback that Mr. Williams is going to be working on making some improvements to the website as well. So that is our data for the day. And next month, we're going to be talking about enrollment trends because we just received that data just last week. So with that, Chairman Johnson, I am done with my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Hoyer. That was one of the more lively reports we've had. It was fun. I've received no request for audience communication for addressing this Board of Trustees today. That enables us to move on to Section 7, Action Items. Action Item A, Baseball Fundraising Approval. Mr. Boyd.
Chairman Johnson, Superintendent Hoyer, members of the board, I'm here for a quick action item after last round's report in regards to baseball. So what I'm bringing forward to you is the very simple proposal that we rolled out at the report a meeting ago, which lays out the fundraising timeline, the goals that we're trying to meet, and the implications as to what occurs if we're unable to reach those goals. The baseball committee's met numerous times over this school year. They're ready to begin their work. I'll meet with the community members individually here over the course of this week, and then we have a baseball committee next week, and they'll begin their process, I'm sure, shortly after that. So I'd request approval for this third-party fundraiser to begin in the Great Falls community to begin raising funds for baseball in the 2026 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Trusky.
I move that we approve the initiation of fundraising efforts by the Baseball Committee to prepare for the implementation of baseball as an MHSA sanctioned sport for Great Falls Public Schools beginning in 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the initiation of fundraising efforts by the Baseball Committee. Any commentary, questions from our Board of Trustees? Any commentary or question from our citizens in the room? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Lots of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
Action item B. Resolution estimating charges and revenue mills from tuition, adult education, building reserve, flexibility fund, bus depreciation, and transportation levies for school fiscal year 2025-26. Mr. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Hoyer. What you have in front of you is our estimates for the permissive levies for next year. And it's important to understand why they're permissive levies, and I'll use transportation as an example. We're allowed to levy money to keep buses running the way they should. Without the permissiveness amount tied to it, we could end up in a situation where our buses were in very, very poor condition, and this allows that. We've tied the transportation levy to bus driver wages. It's required in the contract, and the amount that it is increasing is solely tied to that. We're in a 5-year contract with Big Sky Bus Lines, and the majority of the increase is solely wages for bus drivers. And we do that to tie the hands of Big Sky Bus Lines so that they pay their drivers more and attract drivers and get good drivers that can haul our kids back and forth to school. Tuition is another of the funds that ordinary expenses for a student in our district. The tuition fund allows for all those expenses that exceed that, whether it's nursing services, aid services, special busing services, and Mr. Boyd does a great job of outlining all those expenses, and we do it student by student, add them all up, and we saw an increase in the tuition fund this year, which is attributed to the large number of students that continue to come into our district from around our surrounding communities, and we serve them, and we serve them well. Adult education, the expenses are related to transformational learning. The building reserve is one of the funds that went down, and it's tied to a formula that's based on the number of students we have in the district. When our enrollment goes down, that fund goes down. The nice part about the fund is for every dollar we levy, we get a little more than $1 from the state. That they provide money that helps offset costs that we have related to improving our buildings. The flexibility fund is related to advanced opportunity, and bus depreciation involves replacing our van buses. They're known as Type E buses. Doesn't replace Big Sky Bus Lines buses because we don't own those. So it's not a very big levy, but we can depreciate our current fleet at 20% per year up to 150%. And over time, if we look at the last 5 years, the overall permissive levies have gone up on average of 51 cents per year on a $100,000 house. And all this information, there's a chart that you can see up on the screen, that gets published in the paper for our taxpayers to see, and we generally estimate higher than normal. There's a lot of things that impact what the final outcome is. Part of that has to do with taxable valuation. Part of it may have to do with the legislature. If they fully fund advanced opportunity learning, we can take that levy off. So there will be some changes. This is just our best estimate that we have right now. And if the ad doesn't go in the paper, then we can't change any of these. So that's the hook that's in the law as to why we go through this. And I know we had a good session on January 9th with the board budget committee, so or other board members showed up as well, and we worked through each of these funds individually, explained what the differences were and why they were. So At this point, Mr. Chair, my recommendation is to approve the information as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Bronson.
I move that the board adopt the recommendation of our budget committee to in turn adopt a resolution estimating the changes in revenues and mills to the adult education, building reserve, flexibility fund, bus depreciation, transportation, and tuition levies for the school fiscal year 2025-2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution estimating changes in revenues mills. Any questions, comments from this Board of Trustees? From Mr. Patrick? Any questions or commentary from our citizens in the room? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Patrick, thank you very much. That brings us to action item C, second reading of deleted and revised board policies 1,113P vacancies, 1,310 district policy and procedures, 1,312 delete administrative regulations, and 1,332 authorization of signatures. Mrs. Hoyer.
Well, thank you, Chairman Johnson. As of this afternoon, I have received no feedback outside of the initial feedback that trustee and committee member Bronson gave us, which was some minor grammatical things that we did need to fix to clean these up. So I would request that you would approve policy 1113P with the language changes as recommended by MTSBA and the committee. 1310, same language changes as recommended by MTSBA and committee. The deletion of 1312 and then policy 1332 with the language changes as recommended by MTSBA. In the pages following this, you will see those changes italicized for you and crossed out for you. But once again, we have had no feedback from our community or any members of the board at this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Torowski.
I move that we approve deleted and revised board policies 1113P vacancies, 1310 district policy and procedures, 1312 deleted administrative regulations, and 1332 authorization of signatures as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve deleted and revised board policies as stated. Is there any questions or conversation regarding these policies? Any questions or conversation from our community members with this? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the deleted and revised board policies, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much, and thank you to my colleagues who serve on the policy committee. Greatly appreciated. Nothing was pulled from the consent agenda, so we're going to move right into reports, discussion, and policies, and that brings us to school nutrition report. Mr. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my pleasure to introduce Jessa Youngers. She's been our food service director since July of 2018. She's an excellent leader, manages her staff. She has staff in all the buildings very well. She's also very good at crisis management, and not just crisis management, but immediate crisis management. If a call goes out and says you have to change it because there's no electricity at this school, it's handled and handled very well, and seems like seamlessly. She has great knowledge of program that she offers and the compliance that she needs to do, operational management. You can imagine working with the number of employees she has in all the buildings. And then she's had the pleasure of going through a pre-COVID situation, COVID, now post-COVID, and has managed all those very well. And know that she's responsible for facilities, just updating all the equipment and ovens and freezers and things like that. And just bottom line, she's an excellent troubleshooter and a great person to work with. So I'll turn it over to her for her slideshow.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. Chairman Johnson, members of the board, community members. I say it every year, but man, the room just clears out right before my presentation, right before the fun starts.
Oh.
No. Thanks for having me for our annual report. I want to start by giving a brief shout out. Well, it's always difficult to select one or even a few people from our staff to highlight every year because, quite frankly, most of our staff deserves to be recognized for the role they play in ensuring kids are fed every day. I have selected 3 staff members this year for the specific role they played in our salmonella outbreak this fall. So the first one is Paula Reed. She's the satellite lead at Valley View. I selected her on the basis of when we went out to do the environmental assessments with the health department, we arrived at Valley View literally, quite literally, minutes after their last serve. And their kitchen was so tidy and so clean, it looked like they hadn't even operated out of there. So that obviously was super impressive. In addition to Paula specifically, we hired her late last fall. We trained her with the intent of becoming a lead. I think she stepped into the lead role like the last 2 weeks of school last year. So she really doesn't have a whole lot of experience, and then tackled that kitchen at Valley View, got it back in fantastic shape. And then, of course, we walk in with, shoot, there must have been a half a dozen of us or more that day. Jackie was there. It was spotless. So, Carol Little is the satellite lead at Sacagawea. Same situation. We arrived there to do an environmental assessment unannounced. Carol pretty much, well, she was able to answer all the health department's questions without any backup, anything from me. I kept saying to them, well, I know the answers to the questions. You go ahead. Like, they need to hear it from you. And then the last one was Susie Bedwell. It was a separate day that we went to do that environmental assessment. She's the production manager at Paris. Her task is slightly larger just by the nature of her job. But while we were in the freezer, health inspector identified a giant tub of turkey and gravy that was left over in the freezer. So she started asking Susie questions regarding when it was produced, how it was produced, cooling methods, reheating methods. It ran the gamut. Susie had perfect answers to all of them, which was great, of course. But then the inspector inquired about documentation. The Montana Food Code does not require any documentation on this. It requires that you know the process, you have processes in place to keep food safe, but no documentation. Susie marched right over to her filing cabinet, pulled out a big stack of papers, and she had it all flipped right to the page. It was probably weeks ago that the initial process of making the turkeys had begun, because turkey is one of the few raw proteins that we manage in the district. So it's a process to cook enough turkey for 8,000 meals. So she had it all perfectly organized. She knew right where to go. So with that, I think these 3 were well deserving of the recognition today. So move right along. As you probably know, we offer, 3 primary federal programs: the National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, and the Summer Food Service Program. That school breakfast program is offered in 18 of 21 schools. And then, of course, the community eligibility provision is the other sub-program that allows us to serve free meals to all students based on the demographic of the school. And that is offered in 7 schools. As far as data is concerned, the summer food service program data is in. We served 15,214 total meals last summer. It's down about 700 meals from the previous summer. So it was disappointing. We were disappointed, but we move on. We did try really hard last summer to advocate for ourselves to be designated as rural in the state, because districts or sites that are considered rural have some additional flexibilities. And for us, that flexibility could have meant that we could have served breakfast for tomorrow with lunch today. Unfortunately, there are 3 cities in the state of Montana that are not rural, and we are one of them. So we didn't qualify. Us and Billings and Missoula were the only 3 that we just couldn't swing it, and unfortunately. I do truly believe that should we be able to serve breakfast for tomorrow with lunch today, our numbers would increase dramatically, as they did with COVID, and you can see that topping 60,000. The big news, though, was our takeover of the Park Pals program, although it is a collaboration. I shouldn't say it's a takeover. It is a collaboration with Get Fit Great Falls through a United Way grant funding. It proved to be a major undertaking that we do believe was in the best interest of the children who participated. So I can tell you that we learned some things. We did some things wrong. We'll do some things right this summer. It was a lot of fun. Not every day went perfectly, but every day there were staff in the parks to play games or color pictures or do whatever. Some days the fire department showed up. One day we had the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks show up. So when we did a deep dive into the data, actually I did it today for a quarterly United Way grant report, what we found is in July and August, we served between 73 and 105 students a day. Total participation in July and August was 964 student interactions. So it could mean students were duplicated. They came 3 or 4 times. I received my first phone call today, ironically, about trying to find ways to engage aware clients. So they're asking for the schedule and what's going to happen next summer. So that's good. That's a population that we haven't had participate in the past. So I'm anxious to see if we can loop them in and how that works for both us and them. So that's exciting. Ultimately, the goal is to continue to grow. So what that looks like at this stage in the game, this late in the winter, early in the spring, whatever you want to say, it's a little bit unclear at this point, but we'll get her figured out and get it ready to go for the summer. I spoke a little bit to breakfast in the classroom, the fact that we operate 18 school breakfast programs across the district. The elementary schools that operate breakfast, the schools elementaries that operate, only one doesn't have breakfast in the classroom. That was Morningside. So we're going to work with Jennifer and her team here over the course of the third quarter to implement breakfast or transition their current breakfast program to breakfast in the classroom for the fourth quarter. We would expect to see an increase in participation probably in the neighborhood of 20%. That's what we've seen in similar demographic schools. So we're anxious to get that process started. Here is last year's National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program meals, 1.38, just over 1.38 million meals. While it's not an increase over the previous year, it hovers in the same ballpark. It's consistent with our pre-COVID numbers. Last week at our all-staff meeting, I challenged our staff to talk to students and think about what types of things we could look at to drive participation. So in the coming weeks, we'll be looking at their suggestions and what that looks like for implementation into next year. Of course, our menu for next year is done and ready to go. So it will be slight tweaks along the way. But if there are some things that seem to be really popular, like macaroni and cheese with beef taco meat on it, we rolled that several weeks ago, and that was, I've never gotten so much feedback in my life as that one, to the positive. So beef taco mac, there you go. As far as daily participation is concerned this year, these are our numbers as of the 31st of December. We're looking at an average daily participation of 7,673 students a day, which tracks to be about 1.38 million meals over the course of the school year. Hoping that transition of breakfast in the classroom at Morningside will allow us to bump a little bit, but we'll see. These are just some of the examples of the communication that we have with families, primarily in the beginning of the school year, outlining the new pricing schedule, a link to the free and reduced application by QR code, how to pay for meals, and how we intend to communicate negative balances. And then moving on to the free and reduced price qualification, none of this is really new. You can qualify by being categorically eligible, whether that means you participate in other federal programs, SNAP, TANF, FEPIR, migrant, I presented this to my staff last week and I had migraine. So we got that changed to migrant, runaway, and foster. New last year, you might remember that Medicaid rolled into this as being categorically eligible. This year, what we've discovered is all these Medicaid kept getting call after call from families saying, "I qualify for Medicaid. I'm not. My kids aren't free. What's going on?" And ultimately, there's boatloads of Medicaid programs, and not all of them require the same data. So if the Medicaid program that a family qualifies for doesn't require them to report family household size, or maybe it doesn't even require them to report income, they don't qualify. So we have to have both of those two factors for them to qualify for a free meal. So the recommendation is they can still qualify. They likely still do. They just have to do it by application. That wasn't a very popular solution, however. Other ways to qualify, obviously, are by income application and CEP. It is important to note that the qualification for CEP is not based on free and reduced qualification at baseline. It's based on the direct cert or the categorically eligible participation. So we might say a school is 70% free and reduced, but the students that are actually directly certified might be significantly smaller than that. So the application piece, income application, doesn't get taken into consideration when it comes to CEP. No changes to the CEP schools: Longfellow, Whittier, West, Mountain View, Sunnyside, Skyline, and Giant Springs. Here's a whopper. This is, as of January 17th, the meal charges across the district, just over 81,000. While we're working hard to collect on these accounts, those that are stagnant sort of sit stagnant, and our success is not very great, which I will talk about a little bit. The next slide talks about our notification process. Nothing's changed. We continue to send Wednesday envelope flyers. We continue to send electronic notifications twice weekly. And we know they're working because when we get angry phone calls, they usually want us to stop the electronic notifications. We did explore a new avenue this late fall with certified letters. So anyone that owed over $250 as of the 4th of November received a certified letter. We sent 51 total letters totaling about $25,000. What was a little bit disheartening is we only received confirmation of receipt for 17 of those. So several weeks later, I got a big stack of certified letters that went unsigned for. So that was a rough go, ultimately. But 33% of the total meal charges, that 81,000, is held by 5.5% of our students, this 51. So a significant portion of the debt is held by a very small number of students. As you can see, though, the negative debt on those accounts when we sent the letters in November is less than it was, which is to be expected if they're not being addressed in January. So obviously the debt is accruing quicker than the pay down. In the letter, we did request that families either apply for free and reduced if they hadn't, pay on the account, and or call us to set up some sort of a payment plan. Of the 51 accounts, like I said, we received confirmation that 17 actually received the letter, 4 called, 5 submitted a free and reduced application, but not all of them qualified. When I pulled this data, there had been 11 transactions, and 33 of the 51 accounts had not been addressed in any way. So as of today, we did last week we resent letters. We didn't certify them. We added anyone who had jumped up into the over $250 range. And we haven't, like I said, most of those letters went out early last week, so we haven't really heard a whole lot from them. So we'll keep chipping away, trying to make an impact on that debt, but ultimately, we just need people to sort of keep up on them as they can, or give us a call so we can help find solutions. The principals that are super engaged in this process have really been helpful. They're good about finding maybe some workarounds on another side in the household. So we've got a lot of people on board. We just need to get some traction. So one of the potential pieces of traction is summer EBT. Looks like it's around to stay. So this is a program where anyone who qualifies for free and reduced meals during the school year will receive an EBT card with a one-time payment. This summer it was $120 to be used for groceries, just like an EBT card. So there's sort of a carrot at the end of this. If we could just get people to apply and qualify for free and reduced, there is an additional benefit, an additional monetary benefit. So our role is pretty much just to provide the data on our students that qualify by income application. We provide that information to DPHHS. They have everything else. They have all the people, all the students that are directly certified. They've got all of that. So the challenges are keeping the data up to date. When addresses change, students move. If you apply for free and reduced meals at the beginning of the school year, by the end of the school year, are you in the same household? So we'll be soliciting that information from families as we close out the school year this spring, trying to get updated addresses that we can provide more accurate information. There were some pretty significant delays in the processing at the state level, which led to a lot of phone calls into our office, mostly because of general misunderstanding. People just don't understand that we're not actually administering the program. So that is sometimes difficult. Lots of areas of opportunity, though, as we move forward. Ultimately, I think the message tonight, though, is could this be a little extra motivation to get those families who are on the cutoff of free and reduced meals, struggling to pay for meals? Could this be a little motivation? So we've reached the point in the presentation where we can talk about the elephant in the room. Ironically, salmonella is one of those things that you can't see, to the naked eye at least, yet it is certainly an elephant. So as I was preparing for this presentation, I simply typed in Great Falls, Montana, salmonella outbreak. And if you click to the next slide, I was looking for a local news headline and was shocked to see pages and pages of headlines about our salmonella outbreak. Law firms across the country. I mean, it's scary. Don't do it. I wouldn't recommend doing it. It's a little bit scary. Anyway, certainly one of those topics that we saw, and we have no desire to return. On the next slide, I did list some of the roles we played in the investigation, including providing student transaction lists. Every time we'd get a positive case or a suspected case, we'd go digging for their transactions. Production records with every single thing that was on the service line at any specific school on any specific day, down to the ranch and the ketchup. Absolutely everything we could find. We provided invoices to help secure lot numbers and participated obviously in the environmental assessments, which I cited earlier. Looking for something that could indicate somewhere it could have been introduced or a way it could have proliferated. I can tell you, I'm not a super confident person. I was never more confident in the fact that it did not originate in one of our buildings. And so I think as I reflected on the situation, I really had to step back and be like, okay, it's probably not a direct attack. But in the heat of the moment, it was like, our staff did not introduce this. Our staff didn't spread it. What could have happened? So all of our safety and sanitation visits, those environmental assessments really helped highlight, I think, for the health department. It helped them see that it really wasn't a situation of what we had done as opposed to what we had received. So here's just a super simple timeline of what that looked like for us. We suspect the introduction was Tuesday, October 29th. First report was 8 days later. It was the first case at Riverview. And from there, it was just every day. I think we worked on it probably every single day. from compiling and collecting data, those invoices, production records, transactions, looking for any possible similarities among the students. I think we were running our own investigation on our side while the health department was running theirs. Ultimately, the health department was able to call our outbreak. I think it was it was quite a bit sooner than the nationwide outbreak. The nationwide outbreak didn't get called until January 8th, I believe, is when it was finalized. So it was a lengthy process, but I am happy to say my staff was nagging to get cucumbers back in the building. We brought them back last week, and kids have never been so happy to consume a cucumber. Believe it or not, cucumber is number 2 to carrots in our district. So it was a rough couple of months with no cucumbers. The fallout from the outbreak is certainly average daily participation in the moment decreased. Not tremendously, about 134 a day. I pulled the same data over the same time periods, but a year ago, and it was like 20 down. So 134 might be a little bit inflated just because our numbers are higher right now, but there was a slight impact. Unused produce, we threw away about 5,000 pounds to the tune of $7,000 worth of produce. And then labor hours, which were primarily mine because they were easier to calculate, was probably about 80 between the 6th and the 26th. So moving beyond salmonella is the National School Food Survey. I think Heather introduced this a couple of weeks ago. We're obligated to participate by regulation. It's simply an assessment of school meal programs and used to inform current and future policy decisions. We're one of about 1,000 school food authorities across the country that are participating, and we, of course, had 4 schools selected. So it will involve a ton of data collection, lots of interviews from the principal to Brian and myself, our production staff, and satellite kitchens, and then observations. They're going to bring a team of about 4 the week of May 12th and do all those interviews and observations at that time. Well, we talked a lot about food. We shouldn't forget about the warehouse. The big win in the warehouse, obviously, with your much appreciated support, was the purchase of a new warehouse truck. So there's AJ in his truck. Moving on, this is just a brief breakdown of what our staffing looks like. No significant changes. The next slide is our area of opportunity, which is actually in great shape as far as staffing is concerned. A couple of production cooks. They're hard to find, so if you know anybody that can cook, we'll take them. We did just fill the satellite lead position at Lewis and Clark last week, so the number of positions that we're looking for is actually not too bad. Finally, thank you for your support. We appreciate what you do for the district, obviously, and I guess I'll take questions if you've got them.
Thank you. Any questions for Jessa? Amy?
Well, first off, I want to thank you for all of your hard work and everything. I mean, as Brian said, I know we all know how good you are in a crisis, and we really appreciate that. I do have a question about the breakfast in the classroom. Do we reach more hungry students that way, and does it help with attendance if it's in the classroom?
I can't speak to attendance specifically. We do normalize breakfast at school by putting it in the classroom. So the stigma of I need to eat breakfast at school is reduced.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Bronson?
I just wanted to commend you and the staff for what you went through in this investigation of the salmonella outbreak. And I say that for 2 reasons. A few years ago, when I was on the city commission, I was their representative to the Board of Health. And so we went through, from that level, working with health department staff, all of the processes that you have to go through when you have an outbreak and you're trying to identify it as best you can. And it's time consuming, it's cumbersome, but that's critical because otherwise you're not going to be able to really get to the cause of it. And the second reason is we went through this personally with our oldest son years ago involving a restaurant here in town where there was a cluster outbreak of salmonella poisoning. Again, all traceable to these packaged foods that, by necessity, we and a lot of other people around the country buy. And to me, it's just taught me again that, it can arise anywhere. But the reality is, in our world today, we don't really know enough about what goes on in the places where these things are manufactured. And as a result, I think it's a greater risk to us. But again, kudos to you and your team for working with the folks to get this done. And, again, I'm like you, your gut instinct, it isn't coming from here, it's coming from somewhere else.
Trustee Skonogoski.
So I have a question and a comment. I guess my question is that I've seen that other communities, I think Butte and Kalispell, have been able to offer free meals to everyone. And I just wanted, I'm sure if we could, we would do it here. So I just kind of wanted an explanation of why we don't qualify.
So we're constantly evaluating the data. First off, I've probably looked at it every month since school started, since last spring maybe. What happened is they decreased the threshold from 40% to 25% identified student percentage, and that's where I'm talking about the directly certified students, which it looks great. That looks great. It looks like more schools would qualify, and I'm sure they do. However, you take that identified student percentage and multiply it by a factor to get what you're actually going to get paid. And so by decreasing that number, I am not confident over a 5-year period that we would be able to float it to make it work for Great Falls Public School. We have some schools that have free and reduced rates, not direct cert rates, free and reduced rates at 6%. I think Loy right now is 6%. So those numbers really draw our identified student percentage down. So it's finding where that balance is, because if you're not familiar with CEP specifically, once you multiply it by the factor, that's your paid or your free reimbursement from the feds. So if let's say our identified student percentage is 100 students, we would be paid 100 for 160. It's just not, we have to find where that balance is ultimately. That's probably the easiest way to answer the question. How Kalispell did it, I'm not sure. I do intend to place a phone call. I do think that they have a number of rural schools attached that may be higher on that direct cert rate. That helps lower their ultimate percentage.
And I guess just a comment. I've had the opportunity to work with Jessa on many projects. If there's a menu rollout, she's in I see her in the schools checking in with kids to see what they think of the new item. Um, she is an advocate for students and particularly low income students. So it's like, I know if it's eligible here, we will get it here. Because you are that advocate. I've seen you advocate, whether it's on the calendar committee or, through our partnership in Get Fit Great Falls. We just have a true champion for students and for healthy eating in you. And then just a quick comment on, I had the opportunity to talk with Abigail Hill, our city county health officer, about the salmonella outbreak. And nationally, the people that she was talking to on the phone were so impressed with what you were able to provide as far as information to try to find that source. When you're talking about an absolute needle in a haystack, and you provided the only hope to really to tracking that down. And it's just your responsiveness, your professionalism, how you run your team. I mean, it's just top notch. So while I know you're wanting to hide and not talk about what happened, your responsiveness is just absolutely amazing, and how you handled that situation just really could not be topped. So
Appreciate that.
yeah.
Any further comments or questions? I do wish we would have had a greater audience for you for this excellent presentation.
I know. They leave before
If
the
it's
show
any
gets started.
hope, these are being recorded, and the entire community should see what you and your team are doing for our kids. We truly appreciate it. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Reports, discussion, and policies. B, consensus building priorities. Mrs. Mainwaring.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson, members of the board, Superintendent Hoyer. Uh, I'm happy to be here tonight to give you an update on our consensus building process and where we're at with it. So next week, we start our meetings. We have 2 days next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, where we've worked to form a team of both internal and external stakeholders. So we'll have community members, we'll have staff members, we'll have parents, we'll have students. It's a full range of perspectives on the team. So their charge, as they start, is that by the conclusion of the consensus building process, this team will have developed recommendations for practical, viable solutions to address the anticipated budget shortfall of at least $2.5 million. Additionally, they will propose further solutions to manage potential challenges arising from declining enrollment or increased staff wages. These recommendations may include efficiency measures, program delivery adjustments, and/or budget reductions if necessary. So that's what that team is going to be working on for those 3 days in the next 2 weeks. What our consultant, Diane Groves, asked us for, was to set out some parameters. So some things that are priorities for our community. And as you know, over the this past school year, we've been working really hard to listen to our community, what's important to them, what are important priorities for us. We've built our strategic plan partially based on that community survey that we did last year, and got all that feedback from that. And then those listening sessions that we spent time on this fall. We had 7 sessions, 6 mixed community sessions, and then 1 that was exclusively students, high school students in particular. So taking all the information from that survey, our strategic plan, and the listening sessions, the summary of those, we worked to develop what priorities we're going to ask this team, this consensus building team, to keep in mind that are important to our community. So what we've come up with are school safety, and that includes physical buildings and our student behavior. So that's an important piece to our community, both internal community and external. Student learning, that's a priority. Why do we have school? To learn, right? So we have to keep academics in focus. And this was also a resounding piece from our student listening session, which they expressed over and over, each one of them. The choices in their curriculum, that comprehensive programming. They want to leave us well prepared for whatever they decide to do. So they were strongly urging us to keep that comprehensive programming in mind. Community trust and partnerships are an important piece of our strategic plan, and it's important to our community. We have essential operational needs. There's just some things that we can't not do, if that makes sense. We have bills we have to pay, we have standards that we have to meet, and on the next slide I'll go over that in a little bit more detail. Teacher recruitment and retention was also a big takeaway from all of those listening sessions, from the survey, and we know that that is very important. So those are the 5 big categories, or those side rails, that will kind of measure our ideas against. Okay, keeping those in mind as they work. I told you I'd talk a little more about the essential operations. So I'm in kind of eyeball deep with a few of my colleagues in the accreditation process again right now. Um, One of those requirements, and these spell out all the things that allow us to keep our accreditation and keep us certified as a school. One of those things is a teacher-class ratio. And I just wanted to touch very quickly and thank our data department, Chris Me in particular, for putting together this enrollment report or enrollment projection report that he puts together on an annual basis and is based on some city and state data. But that helps us predict what our enrollment is going to look like over the next 5 years. So we look at the actual data from this year, we look at birth rates and some other state data, county data, and he can use a formula to project how we're going to look next year. And this is particularly important for kindergarten because we don't know. That's the first time we get to. So we are looking, based on that report and what we have been experiencing the last couple, 3 years, we're looking at a continued decline in enrollment based on that. But I just wanted to highlight that. I think Superintendent Hoyer is planning to discuss that. I heard her say next month and show you some more detail about that. But that's one of those things that we can't change. That's out of our control. And we need to make sure that we have the right number of students assigned to each teacher. We don't have more than that, and that's part of our accreditation. With that, we've also put up a web page or a page on our website that talks specifically about the issues related to the consensus building. So that's the address right there if you want to find that page directly, quickly. That has beautiful video from Mr. Patrick that explains school finance, and we'll continue to add videos as we go. There's some questions that are asked and answered, some things that we hear regularly that we want to address ahead of time. And if you are hearing questions, shoot them our way and we'll gladly answer them and put them up on that page as well. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Mrs. Bainwaring? We'll look up more information on the webpage. All right, thank you for your presentation. That brings us to reports, discussion, and policies. C, discussion, committee reports, and comments. Let's start with you, Trustee Sunchild.
Just want to shout out to the Morningside students. That was great, and their teachers. I worked with Miss Warnicki for a long time. That had her fingerprints all over it, so that was fantastic. Also, just to speak to Scott Smart's award, those of you, Trustee Thompson too, has had kids. Anybody who has had athletes go through Great Falls High know how near and dear Scott Smart is. I mean, he's amazing, and he deserves all the things. He is so fantastic, and those kids. I mean, hearing their names, those girls get introduced the way he does it is just there's just something, and he's so involved, and he knows what all those athletes what they do and when they compete and talks to them about it, and he is an absolute gem to that school. So I was really happy, and I told Morgan, and she was ecstatic. She said he deserves all the things too. So he gets a great congratulations at Crosstown this week.
Thank you, thank you. Let's hopscotch to the other end of the table. Trustee Thompson.
Oh, well, that makes it easy. I'll just second what Marley said to start. He's absolutely wonderful and definitely deserves it. I'm very much looking forward to Crosstown Week and being able to take in a couple of these events, so that'll be great. And then I just wanted to thank everyone for all of the appreciation that we've got this month. It's really awesome. Just from everything on Facebook and social media, and tonight was amazing. So thank you for your appreciation of us. And then one last thing, I'm thinking, Jessa, if we should maybe announce that it's the person that's in charge of the lunch ladies is speaking next. Maybe then the kids would want to stay and find out, how they could help decide what was for lunch next week or something. I don't know.
Very good, thank you. Trustee Skonagowski.
Well, so just want to start by saying I'm super envious of Paige's energy absorption and invulnerability skills. I would take either of those happily. And, if you're willing to loan me your lasso anytime. I had the opportunity on Friday. Our students were off because it was the end of the quarter. I had the opportunity to see some of our Great Falls High kids interacting with students at Toro University. They were just an intrinsic part of a half-day training on question, persuade, and refer, essentially suicide prevention techniques, and the students were training medical, future doctors on how to talk to their patients about their mental health needs. There was also, I believe, 60 students, nursing students from Great Falls College at that as well. So we are growing some really great kids, but also really great leaders for our community. So I wanted to share that with all of you. And I'm looking forward to participating in as much of the consensus building as my schedule allows over the next 2 weeks. So that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Bronson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along the same lines, recognizing individuals who were honored by the High School Association. I couldn't help but notice, we had a lot of continuity with Jim and Gary. Jim actually started as the athletic director when I was a freshman in high school. So he's very, very clear in my memory for a lot of different reasons, but I'm just pleased that they are recognizing the contributions of a lot of these folks in high school athletics. It's well deserved. Second thing, I wanted to give the board a brief update on the continuing discussions about this state insurance trust, which has been a topic of conversation now since the last legislative session. I spoke to Mr. Decons earlier today, and the representatives of this new trust are going to probably be doing a presentation for us probably toward the end of March. And Mr. Decon suggested, and I agreed with him, I think that we will do sessions where all of you will have an opportunity to listen in to what they're proposing to do, and you won't have to just strictly rely on my representations. But I think it's very interesting. To be brutally honest, these folks have yet to convince most of us here that this program would work for us. But that certainly doesn't prohibit other districts around the state that are in desperate need of a new insurance program from looking at this. But in any event, hopefully by the end of March, we will have these folks up here and all of you will have an opportunity to listen to a presentation. Last thing, I just wanted to comment, I really want to emphasize my appreciation to the Montana School Boards Association in terms of how rapidly they can respond to an inquiry from a trustee about pending legislation. We had a situation last Friday afternoon where some concerns of a couple of our teaching personnel got communicated to me. I hadn't even heard about this particular bill. I went online, read it, could understand why there were concerns. I immediately contacted Emily Dean, our Director of Advocacy, just to leave a message, just explaining what the situation was. And I, assumed Emily might get back to me within a day. She was back to me within a half hour. She had the answers. Oh, we're already working on amendments on this to resolve this particular problem. She gave me a preview of those amendments. They hadn't even been formally introduced yet, but they largely addressed most, if not all, of the concerns that I had been or I had received. And again, that just shows what a crackerjack lobbying operation we have down in Helena. I truly appreciate it, and I hope the rest of you will have an opportunity to see that in action in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Tarosky.
Big night for Valley View. Thank you for recognizing Miss Paula. She is just a sweetheart, and she greets the kids every single day with a smile. And and she does run a tight ship in that lunchroom. It's always tidy and in line. And then Valley View is our character strong, and the second grade classes sung the empathy song every single day to prepare for our last assembly, so they could sing it at the assembly. And it's very fun to hear in the halls, walking through the halls, and Miss Clark and Miss Henenberg are probably the best second grade teachers we have in the district. I might be biased. Miss Clark actually, so she taught my oldest last year in second grade, but years ago she taught my younger brother in kindergarten. So, and she ended up remembering him and me, and it was really fun. And my oldest thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, if you guys ever want to do the cha-cha slide, we do it in the hall every
right.
Friday morning.
Sounds
Everyone
fun.
comes out of their classes, and so you guys are all welcome. But thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just echo Trustee Bronson's comment about the Montana School Board Association. Boy, there's just a wealth of information at noon on Thursdays with the think tank, and we all receive the emails on a regular basis as to what's going on day by day. It's just a fantastic resource, and we're all grateful for that. Also, we'll be going to Helena on Wednesday, right? And representing Great Falls Public Schools at the, what's it called, the Education Day down there? Superintendent Hoyer?
It's the Public Education Day of Advocacy.
We'll have a chance to meet face-to-face with our legislators and impress upon them the importance of what we're doing and the importance of what we do for our kids. So that's all very important. And also, I think everybody on this board is aware that that we received $1 million gift, anonymous gift, for the renovation of the CMR auditorium. And as wonderful as that is, and it's deeply appreciated, unfortunately, it doesn't go far enough to do the renovation that would really make it up to the level that we want it to be. So consequently, we're endeavoring to raise additional funds. Committee has been spearheaded by Stephanie Becker, and it's comprised of Mr. Bronson, myself, Jamie Marshall, former Superintendent Tom Moore is on it, and Peter Jennings is on it, and also retired CMR band director Russ Kellogg. And so we put our heads together, and we're going to have a gathering that is going to take place on February 6th, Thursday, at 5:30 p.m. at the Dark Horse downtown to further inform our community members as to our ambitions on this project and how they can participate. And several letters have gone out today inviting people to that event, and each of us at the table are invited, and hope that you'll join us there on February 6th. And now I'll draw your attention to upcoming meetings into February already, and off we go. A lot of good work. Jessa, thank you again. One of the most memorable meetings I remember was after that salmonella outbreak, and we were in the room together, and decisions, good decisions, had to be made quickly, and how you asked, we needed to make a decision within 10 minutes because you had, what, $10,000 worth of groceries and trucks that were coming that we were going to have to pay for if we didn't make that call? That's decision-making on the top level. Thank you. And if there's no further business, I would call for a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.